Give me a chance. When she came out of the garage, I was sitting on a chair in the middle of the kitchen, across from the laundry room. She saw me sitting there when she came to the laundry room door. I carried a small table out of the living room with a few items on it. I was moving stage props. I had a performance to do. Thomas, there was a question in her voice. What are you doing? Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. I said I just thought you might. I'd like to help you with the fitting. What fitting? I picked up one of my items from the table and proudly displayed it. They say they need to be fitted. What is this? She asked. What's going on? Thomas, is this a joke? You're pulling some kind of prank, aren't you? I do enjoy a good prank now and then. I wasn't joking. It's kind of a prank, but it's supposed to be very serious. No, it's not a prank. I told her it's a manhood cage, a chastity device. Her eyes bulged like they were on stalks. They looked remarkably like snail eyes. The only thing missing was the little stalks. What the hell are you talking about? What are you out of your mind? I did a little research and told her we cucked husbands have to wear manhood cages. That's the most important thing. You wear the key on a chain around your neck. Then after that, you're not going to be making love to me anymore. You'll have to let me out so I can get a piece of the action if you decide to let me. What's wrong with you? She said, looking at me like I had grown a third eye. I have no idea what you're talking about. Have you lost your mind? No, I'm perfectly sane. I just wanted to know how it all worked so I could play my part. So I bought you a nice little chain. I held it up so she could see the key dangling from it. You can wear it. Once you're ready for me to eat cream cakes and have sloppy seconds, you can let me out to do so. I held out the cage. I should have asked you. They have several styles. When are you planning on bringing the bull in? I'd like to meet him as soon as possible. What are you talking about? Rose almost screamed. What the hell is a bull and what are you doing with that disgusting thing? She didn't like it. I might be able to get a refund if she doesn't touch my genitals. It should be fine. I wondered if she had been returned before I shuddered at the thought. It should be washed thoroughly. The bull is the guy who makes love to your wife. I said, you know the alpha male cook watches and does the cleaning after the bull is done with his wife. She swelled with indignation. Thomas, you're accusing me of a... I don't like to think of it that way at all. I said I'm not accusing. That implies that I'm going to judge you. Blaming is such a harsh term. You make love to Greg Johnson, but accuse is not. I just hope I got my part right. If you'll help me put this on. I held it out to her. She took 2 steps forward, snatched it out of my hands and threw it violently into the laundry room. It was a terrific throw, right into the... Stop it, she said, sounding hurt. Ronnie, you must have bent it if you didn't like it. You should have just said so. We could have traded it for one you liked. I'll have to spend a lot of time straightening it out so we can trade it for one you want. Screw the damn thing. How did you know? How long have you known? I thought about it for a minute. Well, today is March 15th. The first time was February 11th at 7:44. Now it's 5:40. Do you need minutes or is an hour enough? That's a bit of a hint about March, isn't it? It's the day Julius Caesar was assassinated. She had her mouth open, looking at me but not making a sound. She looked like a carp stuck on dry land. It wasn't a good look. Why didn't you say something? She asked. What was there to say? I asked. Well, how about Veronica? You know, she said. How about I ask you why you're having an affair? Is that what you want me to say? I asked. Don't you want to know why? She asked. I know why. I don't need to ask. She looked puzzled. How do you know why? I said. I don't need to ask. She gasped. Her big blue eyes filled with tears. How can you say that? I thought you loved me. What does that have to do with it? I asked. I did love you, but I don't anymore now that I know you're a cheating sociopath. I just need to figure out how to adjust to our new roles. She did the carp thing again. Your lips aren't quite right. I told her they should be pointing more downward. What is wrong with you? She was practically screaming. Why are you talking about my lips? Well, carp, have lips pointing downwards to suck up something from the bottom. I said you're doing pretty well, but you need to work on your lips. She probably didn't know that I had done extensive research on carp and ignored my criticism of her parody. What did you mean by, find someone else? She asked. Are you divorcing me? Well, yes, but it's going to take some time. I told her I figured as long as we lived together and I could wear a cage, you'd throw me a bone in between making love to Johnson. That's not what I meant. It's over, Thomas. I won't see him again. I don't want a divorce. Well, that's surprising. I said that when a wife starts sleeping with men other than her husband, it usually means she wants a divorce. Maybe that's not what she wants, but it's the normal course of events. I didn't want you to find out. I said it was only a brief affair, Thomas. It's over, and I swear I will spend the rest of my life being the best wife you can imagine. Well, that sounds very attractive. I said I'm afraid I'll have to decline. Thomas, please don't do this now. She was begging you, you know. I love you. It didn't mean anything, it just happened. I'm telling you it's over. Well, considering you never told me it started, I don't know how I can believe it. I said, how are you going to convince me? She stepped forward, pressing her lush body against me. She was hot, no doubt about it. It's all behind me now, I promise. Well, we both knew what her promises were worth. She jumped up. I don't want to hear about the cages anymore, she growled. Forget the cages. I told you it's over. What the hell is wrong with you, Thomas? I love you and I'm not. I'm going to do this. Let's not talk about it anymore, it's disgusting, I'm sorry. I said, did you happen to use protection with Big Johnson? Her face turned red. Stop calling him that. She said, God, you can be so rude. Thomas, I told you he wasn't that big. And yes, I made him use a condom. Well, were you planning on us having sex anytime soon? I asked. Anytime you want, baby, she purred. Have I ever turned you down? Well, I don't think so. I said I think you should get an STD test anyway. There's no point in both of us risking our health if you could get infected with something. You'd have already if you had. Her voice trailed off. You haven't made love to me since I started taking the pills, have you? She asked. Jesus, Thomas. I hadn't noticed that's why lately you've been sick or tired, isn't it? Well, yes. I admitted I never liked the thought of pus. She wrinkled her nose and said, oozing out of me. I'll get checked tomorrow, she said. What's going to happen now? Nothing for a while, I replied. You know divorces take time, she said. I told you I don't want a divorce, I said. I know, she replied. I remember it was only a few minutes ago my concentration waned a little when you were seducing me, but I can remember some things we don't. She pleaded, I need to get divorced. I told her, it's over from now on. I'm going to be completely faithful to you. She said, I remember that too. I replied, I don't believe you. I've heard it before. She said, I promised to leave everyone else behind. Remember her face? I don't know what's wrong with me. I wasn't going to have an affair. Thomas, we were just together all the time at work. He kept hitting on her. I got a bit carried away, I know. I'm really sorry. I know it doesn't mean much. I thought you'd be more upset. I was. I told her I'd been really upset for weeks. At first, I even thought about killing you. I got an old gun and even went to the shooting range to practice. Then I decided to kill the lover. She wrinkled her nose. I even had a plan to kill both of you. Macy talked me out of it. She knows you told our. Macy, why would you do that? Do you hate me that much? No, I didn't tell her. I said she told me she looked like someone had punched her in the stomach. Carp looked like he was on steroids. How did she know? So that's the reason. Oh my God, she hasn't called me since. She's always telling me she's busy when I try to. Oh my God, I'm not sure he's listening. I said, isn't that your responsibility? You mustn't make. It's not good to love someone other than your husband. One of his golden rules is that she just sat there, unaffected by my cheerful comment, tears streaming down her cheeks. Finally, she woke up from her reverie. Thomas, what am I supposed to do now? She asked in an unhappy voice. I really have no idea, I said. Maybe there's a book you could read, like a How to Explain to Your Daughter Why You're a Cheater website. She looked at me. With a dull look in her eyes, she said, You don't have to hit me. If it makes you feel better, I think you have the right, Thomas replied. Do you like hurting me now? She asked. Well, yes, I think I do, Thomas admitted. I wasn't violent before you made me that way, he said. I'm sorry, she whispered. Can you help me now? Thomas asked. I have no idea, he replied. What did you think was going to happen when I found out I didn't think you would, she said. So, now that you know, what are your ideas, I asked. She thought for a moment. What do you think about open marriages, she asked. I think they are divorces that haven't happened yet, I replied. Are you sure, she asked. Yes, I'm sure, I said. I've read about them in magazines and seen people on TV. I've read about different things myself, she said. I was at the grocery store last week, standing in line. You'll never guess what I saw. Some woman was talking about being Sasquatch's love slave. Her mouth opened and closed. Maybe it was a pufferfish, not a carp, she said. I'd like to think that no man or woman would ever think that. Think about how humiliating it would be for these women. They aren't wives. They're just cheaters. Open simply means that they become cheaters. Then think about how I would feel about that. How would you feel about it? I said something pretty similar, but I don't think that's what I meant. What can I do? Thomas, stop saying that. She screamed, I told you it's over. I'm not going to see anyone else. Yeah, I remember. I said, do you think I have Alzheimer's? Veronica, she just stared at me. I remember you said you didn't believe me. So, would you rather get your divorce papers here or at work? I don't want a divorce. She was shaking her head. I'm not giving you a divorce, Thomas. I think it's not up to you. I told her I'm filing for divorce. You have to wait 60 days. If you don't contest it, the judge will grant the divorce. I'm going to contest it, she said. Why? You obviously don't want to be married, at least not to me. Why would you want to argue that I do want to be married and to you? Well, what about a lover? I asked. That seems a little counterproductive to staying married to me. Once the divorce is finalized, I'm going to get the cage. I don't think I'll wear it, though. I said it looks a little crooked, and I think it would be painful for me. I held it out for her to examine the bend in the wire. She snatched it from me and tossed it back into the laundry room. This time she skipped the dryer but made a perfect basket out of a laundry basket. Leave that disgusting thing alone, she shouted. You're being disgusting. No. That's what we horny husbands are supposed to do. I've studied this thoroughly. You're not a cuckold husband, or whatever it is you're saying. She seemed a bit alarmed. Well, technically no, I admitted. I guess I'm a bit of a cuckold, or at least, that's what she thinks. I don't really keep bull babies unless Macy's is mine. She stared at me with her mouth hanging open. Don't even think about it, she whispered. Of course she's yours. I thought for a moment. Do you think you should take a DNA test? She looked at me like I was from another planet. In fact, I'd already taken a DNA test and knew Macy was mine. I was just pulling her leg. Macy is your child, she said. I've never been unfaithful to you, Thomas. I confirmed, yes, I have. Oh, stop calling him that. I told you he wasn't that big. He's nothing. Thomas, believe me, you're big enough for any woman. Were you interested? I wondered. She blushed. I was amazed. She had that kind of ability. Girls talk about these things, she said. Really? How big is Sam's? I asked. He bragged every time he had. He always did it when Sandy wasn't around. I have no idea. Guys who brag always have tiny dicks. Well, I always suspected as much. Thanks, Ronnie. You learn something every day. Are we done talking about divorces, cages, and wit? Whatever that is, well, I guess. But the divorce, I think we'll have to address this issue eventually. First of all, you still haven't told me where you'd like to be served. I think there's going to be a hearing or something. We're not getting divorced. It was well made, but the wire was a little flimsy. After bending it as best I could, I put it in the box and carefully placed it on the mantelpiece next to our wedding picture. It looked good there. The box had priority mail printed on it in beautiful red letters, going to the Angus Grill restaurant. I ordered myself. I had a very nice steak in the middle of dinner. My phone rang. I answered it. It was Ronnie. Where did you go? She asked. I'm eating, I told her. This is a very good tenderloin. Usually they're tough, but this one is very tender. You know I've always liked the taste of a good sirloin. I heard panting sounds in the tube. Why didn't you ask me first? I thought you might want to call Big Johnson and tell him it was over. I said I didn't want to disturb you in case it wasn't over, and you wanted to make a date. I like that word. Don't you love it? It has a certain pathos to it. Now that sounded like a turkey. I was laughing on the phone. Maybe I should go turkey hunting and hire her to call them. She said she was going to tell him tomorrow. When are you coming home tonight? My colleague has a darts tournament. I said I'd swing by, give it a try, have a couple of beers, and be home around 9. Well, unless Alicia's there. She's there, so I might as well hang out and see what she's up to. She hissed. Why would you do that? You know I've always had a thing for her. While I was married to you, I never gave it a second thought. You're still married to me, she growled. I'll come and claw that fool's eyes out if you're not home by 9. I didn't doubt her for a second. She never really cared much for Alicia. When I got home, she was in the kitchen banging pots and pans and going upstairs. I took a shower and went to bed. I got up at 5. She came in at 30 for work, stripped and crawled into bed naked. She started to slide down my body and I stopped her. I said, I don't want to ruin the moment, but you should have taken that test. You're talking nonsense, Thomas. I don't have an STD. Greg is married. He wouldn't risk bringing any nasty surprises home to his wife. Besides, I told you I always made him use protection. How am I supposed to show you that I'm serious if you don't want to make love to me? She asked me all day. I walked around with a smile on my face. Some of the guys were teasing me about it when I got home. She was there fussing in the kitchen. I'm making pork chops, she called out. Stuffed just the way you like them. Yum, that sounds delicious. I went upstairs and changed. I went back downstairs and started watching basketball on ESPN. She came in when she heard the sound of the TV. She brought me a beer and chips. We had a great meal, and she told me she'd gone and got tested. She said the results would be back in 3 days, which was good because it coincided with Friday, so she'd probably have them by Friday night. That seemed to excite her, and I didn't want to ruin her mood. You know, Ronnie, if you make love to Big Johnson again, you'll have to take a new test. I said I wouldn't sleep with him or anyone else. She shouted, How many times do I have to tell you, Thomas? From now on, I'll be as faithful as an atomic clock. I looked at her. I'm sorry, she said. I am yours alone, Thomas. I will be yours alone for the rest of our lives. It sounded very familiar, but I just nodded. Friday came as always, and she met me at the door with the test results. See, I told you so, she exclaimed. We were just wasting time. She grabbed my hand and started to lead me towards the stairs. When the doorbell rang, she opened the door, and there stood a huge man. He was under 2 minutes tall, and his head was shaved in the collar of his very nice suit. He asked if she was Veronica Brown. She said yes. He said, What's this about? And handed her a large envelope. She said, You've already been served. He turned on his heel and walked away. I was puzzled. I was sure all process servers were young girls chewing gum. This was very out of character. It was a bad omen. Hopefully things would get back to normal soon. Veronica turned to face me. Thomas, what is it? I'm almost certain it's your divorce papers. Hi, she said through tears. I told you I don't want a divorce. I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm so sorry. Please don't divorce me. I picked her up in my arms and carried her to the couch. Well, I told you this would happen, I said. Did you think I was kidding? She asked, sobbing. I thought you'd change your mind, she said. You have to give me a chance. Please, just give me a chance, Thomas. I'll show you what a great wife I can be. You want to show me that now? I asked her. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. You mean, I said, holding out my hand. I'll take you up on that? She took my hand and I led her upstairs. She showed me 3 times that night and twice on Saturday. I only had on Sunday. She was on top of it. I have to hand it to her. She called Big John, making me listen while she told him to go away and not come near her ever again. He didn't take it well, calling her all sorts of nasty names. I couldn't help but agree with him, as he used many of the same. I didn't realize my sweet little girl had such a mouthful. The divorce moved forward, and the first thing the judge did was schedule a counseling session. We had to attend 6 sessions, or the counselor could reduce the number. Arani was given a choice. There were 2 counselors, and I didn't like the guy. He was a big, slow-moving male who clearly hadn't been married for the last 40 years. He had all sorts of progressive theories that he tested on us, like guinea pigs. I was counting the sessions until they were over, like a white rat running around a maze. Both he and Ronnie had. We made great progress, but I felt the main solution was insufficient. I made all the right noises and played all his games until the last session. He asked if we wanted him to call the judge and tell him the divorce was off. I replied that I would take care of everything. He stood up to shake my hand, hunching over from his poor overstuffed chair. I took it and squeezed it lightly. His knees buckled a little, and I put my arm around him and listened. You fat bastard, I said. Take all your advice, all your stupid jargon, and shove it up your ass. I left him and Ronnie standing there. I went to the car, and she followed. Why did you do that? She asked. I thought we were doing so well, I replied. Yeah, I thought so too before you decided to become Big John's needlewoman. She stood stunned for a minute. Are you really going to divorce me? She asked. Yes, I said. I told you that. From the start, I suggested you might want to get your hearing tested. Ronnie, are you going to move out or make me move out? No, I like my house. You're an incredible lover, Ronnie. I'll stick by you as long as you want to stay, but if you start sleeping around, I'm out of here. Are you going to cheat on me as long as you keep this up? I don't see how I can have the energy.